Joining us now on the Maple Toyota Hotline, here is Ray Ferraro. Ray, Mike Babcock fired, Sheldon Keefe hired. How do you react to that news?
Well, when the email came, I'm sure probably like everybody else, I looked at it, and my first thought was, wow, can't believe they did it. Even though we've been talking about it, and gee, if things don't turn around, or gee, you should get a couple more games. For me, I was looking at the gap between the first 4 games of this road trip. There's a couple of day break before they go to Detroit and Buffalo, and I thought that might be either it's turned around or it's not by there. Just in hearing you say about taking the invitation, not only did Mike Babcock take the invitation, he 100% seemed to be the right guy at the right time, the biggest name for the biggest franchise. And you're right, there was so much that was turned, but just not turned far enough. And once the expectations grow, sometimes this is a runaway train, and something had to be done. And this is always the least complicated thing to do, is to replace the coach, because it seems like it's a virtual impossibility to make a significant player move in the middle of the season.
Ray, how similar do you think this is to this Chicago situation, where it just seemed like the GM wanted to make this move, but the roster seems similar? Like, if you look at Toronto and the Chicago situation, how similar do you think they are? And with the new coach coming into the Leafs, how much do you think he can turn this around?
You mean when Quenneville was fired?
That's right. And they brought in Colleton, and now Keefe's coming in for Babcock. Is there a chance where Keefe can actually save this and get them to the playoffs? Or how similar or not similar do you see the situations?
Well, I see it a little bit differently, only in that Joel was there for so long in Chicago that they were. It was an easy sell to say, okay, we're going to transition into this new phase of players. We want, the guy that's been here the longest. We gave him a chance, even though it was a very short spot at the start of the year last year. And okay, we're going to move on in a different direction. This one, the expectations were different. I believe in that, they'd gotten to the playoffs. They couldn't get by Boston. And it seemed after they lost last year that, the ball started to roll downhill just a little bit, where people were saying, Babcock's stubborn, Babcock can't get them over the hump. This is 2 years in a row. They've lost to the same team in the same way, in the same place. And it felt like it was going to happen in Chicago, and it kind of felt over the last couple of weeks like it was going to happen here, even though the talk was kind of whispered around in the summertime. As far as turning the team around, as much as I think I know about the way Sheldon Keefe coaches, we're going to need to see the way that this team plays under I would think some tweaks, a new system, maybe some different roles. I would find it hard to believe that he would be as resolute or as stubborn to play Gauthier and Shore every time there's a defensive zone face-off. Like, I just don't think that's going to happen. So that will be different. Maybe that'll be a few more minutes here and a few more minutes there, or guys moved into different positions. One thing we know for sure about Babcock is he is dug in. Like, the way he sees the lineup, the way he sees the game, that's not going to change much from game to game, month to month. And Keith will be a completely different a different conductor of the band, right?
Breaking news, again, Mike Babcock fired, Sheldon Keefe hired. He'll be behind the bench tomorrow night in Arizona with Ray Ferraro, TSN hockey analyst. Is there a player or two you can think of that you believe will benefit the most from a new coach?
Get the Pooley bump. Pooley calls it the bump when somebody else gets hired.
Well, I would say I don't know. I would think usually you can tell publicly who the coach, has a beef with because of the way they play them and the way that they do these, like the way that the guy plays, the role that he plays. It seems more like there's an abrasiveness around the whole team, like everybody, I don't know, it just were so many guys were off the top of their game. I mean, I would think Tyson Barrie would be thrilled.
Right.
Not to say that, him and Babcock didn't get along or anything like that, because Tyson's a pretty impossible guy not to get along with. But maybe his role will completely change. Maybe the power play will become part of his deal, because I do think it's mattered everywhere else in his game. The fact that he doesn't play any minutes on the power play except for the back 30 seconds. They've acquired the wrong player in Tyson Barrie for the way that they use him. Now, he's not help matters, and his turnover yesterday was ghastly at the wrong time, certainly the wrong time. But I think he would be a player, that I think of right away that would go, you know what, this will be a good thing. The first name I thought of was William Nylander, and I'm like, well, he already plays with Matthews. He already plays.
Right, what's he going to do differently? He's not going to hit and fight because of a new coach.
Yeah, and that's why I took that back, and Barry's the one guy in particular to me that I think his role could or maybe should change a little bit, and maybe they get more out of him.